Hello, good evening, and welcome to Monkeys with Fire. How is everybody tonight? Hope you're all well. Hope you had a good weekend. Good evening, Roger. Hello, Mystical Unicorn Painting. Thank you so much, both of you, for joining me this evening. Hope you're well. So then, we are going to do another deep dive into a role-playing system. Which are we taking a look at? We are going to explore the Dying World of Barsoom, looking at Edgar Rice Burroughs' John Carter of Mars from MODIPHIUS Entertainment. Very much looking forward to sharing this game with you all tonight. It's going to be an interesting exploration, something a bit different, but that's the good thing about these role-playing games that we've been looking at. Everyone is a new world for us to explore. As I do a caveat for any of these role-playing deep dives, I am not an expert by any means. I played role-playing games when I was younger in college days, so it's been a long while since I last played. So I'm kind of coming at it brand new, exploring what the role-playing game scene is like today. There are so many games out there, and it's been a great opportunity to be able to explore some of these worlds that we can enjoy. So then, as usual, Mystical Unicorn Painting is going to join me on tonight. Are you ready, Mystical? Shall we bring you on in? I think so. All right, let's bring you on in then.
Hello.
Good evening. How are you?
I'm good.
Yes. Okay. That's
Yeah,
good.
how are you?
I'm fine. I'm fine. We've got one hell of a game to look at tonight. So this is going to be fun. Let's start then with the book itself. So I do have a copy of the book here. It's the first one that I have seen which has presented in a landscape format. We have this lovely gloss finish to the characters and to the logo on the front. It is a hardback book. We got this beautiful depiction of the map of Barsoom, which is really, really nice. And I believe it's repeated again. Yep. So we get the lower hemisphere on the back there as well. Good evening, Amberden. Welcome. So what do we have? Actually, I can lay this down flat. That's actually pretty good. We have 278 pages. Okay, so it's quite a detailed book. The layout is really beautiful, really nice. Lots of gorgeous artwork to enjoy. We will obviously look at this in more detail because, of course, like many of the role-playing games, there is a digital version, which of course can be very handy. It's good to have this in front of you, and then of course you can use a digital version on a pad or on a phone. You can use its search function. Amberden saying the text looks rather small. Yes, we'll come to that in a moment, Amberden. That is certainly something that we will explore. So it's all very, very nice. Very nice. So very high production value on the book here. It does come with a as I've noticed that this is a common thing on most roleplay books. You do have a little bookmark, which of course is very handy. So you can just sort of set your page.
No, I feel like this is common with this particular company that's doing these books, because you don't have that on a lot of TTRPGs.
Right. Okay. Well, then this is MODIPHIUS Entertainment, but we've also been looking at Free League Publishing, haven't we? And both of those companies seem to do it. But I think that I noticed in the web store you can get Free League Publishing books from MODIPHIUS. So maybe there's something, maybe it's a little bit of working together on that. Are the pages good quality? Yes, they are. They're a nice, glossy, to the feel finish. So yes, I mean, it is a really, really nicely put together book. Lots of detail, but we're gonna go into that in a moment. All right, so there we go. So just shy of 300 pages in the book. All right, let's go to the digital version, which will be a little bit easier for us to manage. Okay, so click on that. Is it going to work? There we go. So my first question then to you guys in the chat, are you familiar with John Carter of Mars? And if you are, how did you find out about this character? And what about you, Mystical? Are you familiar with him?
I am. My husband loves John Carter of Mars. He's got the books. I've only seen the movie.
Right. Okay.
That was my introduction to it through him. But from watching it, I was like, yep, no, I'm interested in this. So when I saw this was what we were doing today, I was like, yes, yes.
Fantastic. Yes. For me, I was aware, but only partially, only in a sort of anecdotal type way, that Edgar Rice Burroughs, that's the guy who created Tarzan, isn't it? And then this was his other character, other adventuring character, but he was on Mars, and that was as far as it went. And then, of course, there was the movie, which helped sort of visualize, because I've never read the books, but when I had the opportunity to select which games we might explore, this was actually pretty high on the list, because I wanted the opportunity to explore something that I know a little bit about, but hey, this is going to explode the universe of John Carter for me, isn't it? Yeah. So yes, there is a movie. There's also a popular comic book series, I believe. And of course, it's a series of books. Good evening, Kathy. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. Hope you're well. We're just starting to take a look at John Carter of Mars, Adventures on the Dying World of Barsoom. That's a bit of a title, isn't it? All right, so...
Fantastic, though.
Yes, and well, just looking at the front cover here, that just says so much, doesn't it? And it makes you want to explore. You have clearly the hero character and his companion in sort of the center stage. We have this huge monster that is behind them, but I get the impression that he might be a friend. We have some sort of flying ship that is not like anything that we are familiar with. And then, of course, there's lots of green Martians. You can't avoid it, can you? Green Martians, but being shot quite dynamically, and someone's having their arm severed. It looks so. Yeah, it's all going on this front cover, isn't it?
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, there is a lot to unpack with this book, just on the cover alone.
Yeah. Let's see if this is going to work here. Is that going to work? No, it's not working. Typical. Okay. Well, Kathy's just saying that I read the first few books out loud on my reading stream. They're very fun. It's great. It's a great world. Yes. Well, that's what we are going to explore right now. So, let me go over. Hang on a second. Got to go that way. There we go. So, as we saw, we got the inner cover depicts the map of Barsoom. I'm right in saying that Barsoom is the Martian name for Mars, isn't it? That's what the indigenous people call it. We have the northern hemisphere there. That's it, yep. Okay, we have our credits. Now, I do believe that this was created in conjunction with the Edgar Rice Burroughs estate. So, as far as the authenticity of the material, it is second to none. They've all been fact-checked to make sure it is incredibly accurate. So, if you are a fan of the novels, then again, just like so many other role-playing games, these take you beyond the book. There's so much source material to be found in them, isn't there? Okay.
Yeah, there really is.
So we get to the contents. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. There is so much.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've been able to get a good idea of games that we've looked at previously. I think with this particular title, we are going to be just scratching the surface, aren't we? Because there is so much information. Okay. Which is fantastic. Again, as I say, if you are a fan of John Carter, this really should be a must. It should be part of your collection so that you can delve in and take advantage of all this wonderful detail that the game provides. But we will have a lot to take a look at. So we have a foreword here from Jack Norris, and I believe Mr. Norris is a bit of a John Carter historian, but he talks about first encountering John Carter when he was younger, not reading Tolkien, which was the sort of the fantasy inroad for most people of a certain age, but actually started with John Carter, enjoyed the world that was presented in books, and then started reading more about it, and of course it built up a passion and an interest for other fantasy and sci-fi settings. So then we then start to get an introduction. If you don't know anything about the John Carter world, then, well, of course, this explains about who Edgar Rice Burroughs was, and then, of course, the John Carter novels. Are you just saying in the chat there, Mystical, you've never read The Lord of the Rings? Oh my goodness.
Don't come for me. It's on my TBR. It's on my TBR. It's just way down the list.
Okay. So, I thought this was interesting here. So, John Carter of Mars is a role-playing game that adapts Edgar Rice Burroughs' rationalist, romantic pulp tales of Barsoom. Heroes fight enemies born of lust, ignorance, and tyranny to save their friends, loved ones, and those cultures and places they call home. false gods, lying priests, deceitful nobles, treacherous assassins, and many other cruel adversaries are the biggest threats. And it does say here, there are no evil races on Mars. Some beliefs are shocking to Earthling sensibilities, and cultural differences can certainly lead to comedic or tragic misunderstandings. But there are no Tolkien-style orcs or similar creatures. Even the largely villainous groups have individuals who eventually see that oppression and cruelty is a hollow and ultimately poor substitute for love and loyalty. The animal and nature of Barsoom also echoes this idea. There aren't really evil animals or beasts on the planet, just hungry, territorial, or savage ones. Barsoom is dangerous and survival is often difficult, but it's not an evil or arbitrary place. I thought that was interesting.
I kind of that bit about the animals. I think that's just kind of in our world as well.
Sure.
There's really no evil animals. It's all about, how they were treated and stuff like that. No animal's definitely out to get you.
Apart from sharks.
No.
No?
No.
They're just hungry. They're just always hungry.
They are. Most shark attacks that happen on people are because they don't know what you are, and they're like, can I eat this? So they go and they try, but they don't go for you going, I'm going to eat this person. Like, this is actually, I take it back. There's only one animal I would see as potentially evil.
What's that?
And that would be an orca.
Oh, are they? All right. Are they that bad? I don't know.
They've been hunting sharks and just like surgically removing their livers and eating them and just killing them. And they're teaching other orcas how to do it.
Right. Oh, I see. Okay. Well, this is the thing. I don't know if Barsoom has large bodies of water, because of course, it kind of doesn't from being an earthling and looking up there. It all looks like a dry desert.
Yeah.
Kathy's made an interesting point, and yes, I think that they may mention something like that, as some of these role-playing games do, where their source material, obviously our societal values have changed quite a lot since the time of writing, but of course, as we've discussed many times, role-playing games are there for the enjoyment of everybody around the table, and so you tailor your game to the audience that are participating, don't you? So there are elements to the world that you might want to sort of tweak slightly, but we'll see if it actually does make a reference to that. Okay, so what do we have? We have a glossary here. Again, because the world of John Carter of Mars is literally its own world. It has its own cultures, language, history, flora, and fauna. Much of this will be detailed extensively in chapters devoted to these various topics. But my goodness. So we do have a lot here. A white ape. Mostly hairless, massive white primates native to Barsoom. Unlike the Earth primates they bear some resemblance to, they are fearsome carnivores and one of Barsoom's deadliest predators. So there we go. We do have a predator. Measures of Mars. My goodness. So we actually do have... Is this? Yes, it is the measuring system. So instead of earth, foot, or meter, record things in the Barsoomium. Ad or Sophad. When months or years or ords and teens are mentioned. Tians. You see, this is going to be such a nightmare. I have difficulty saying Earth names. I'm going to have no chance whatsoever for the Barsoom. So
The amount of
yes.
thought and effort that went into this, though, is just astounding.
It is, isn't it? It is.
Yeah.
The great thing about it, of course, is that Edgar Rice Burroughs created all of this, so it's really collating all of the information together, isn't it? And presenting it in a way that is digestible, even though there's a lot. There's a lot. So we then have measurements of time. Wow. Okay, yes. So it really depends how far you want to go. And we are on page 6 already. Okay, so getting ready to play. Of course, we got an overview of what you're going to need to play a role-playing game, which, you know, we've kind of had this in different iterations across all the books that we have been taking a look at. Amberden, as you recall, Carter was a Southern officer post the Civil War. Well, here you go. You mention a good thing here, because on the next page, eras of play. Now, I think it does talk about this, because again, we had multiple books coming out. And I'm trying to find the section. So we do have an era which is where John Carter, of course, is on Barsoom. Here we go. So the era begins technically in 1866 with Carter's arrival on Barsoom and lasts only about a year. Events and information relative to this period can be used for games set before this time. So yes, 1866 is the Earth year for John Carter. But then, so we have his era, and then we have the Prince of Helium era. Oh my goodness. Jeddak, the Jeddak of Jeddak's era. So that covers the later novels. Here you go, Prince of Helium era. The period covers a large time period. In the first 3 Barsoom novels, A Princess of Mars, Gods of Mars, and Warlord of Mars. During this period, Carter marries, oh, here we go, Dejah Thoris? Dejah Thoris? That sound about right? And becomes a Prince of Helium. Dejah lays an egg? What? I don't even know what to say to that. Kathy, thank you so much for joining us. I hope you're well. Take care, and we'll hope to see you soon. Okay, so we got different eras. The different eras, of course, are based around the novels, aren't they?
Yeah.
If you are familiar with the novels, then you're just going to know what this is, aren't you? So we then, I thought this was a bit different to other games. You know, we've just had a little bit of a prologue, section 1, jumping straight on into creating your character. With other game systems, we seem to have done a lot more about the world, but in this we're jumping straight into our character. And maybe that's the thing, isn't it? There's so much information on the world, we're going to put that to the back part a little bit. Get yourself a character first, and then sort of do that transition, because it's a little bit like John Carter's sort of story, isn't it? Of him then going forward and exploring the world, and we're kind of doing that as well. So, what do we have?
I think that like section 3 is more about they rather than have it at the front of the book, they've put it towards the back, which I kind of like.
Yeah.
Because then that means especially when you're playing, if you need to look up stats or something, or look up something in the book, which you always have to, you're not trying to flip through this section that's a little bit lore, but then here's a page or 2 of information that you need for gameplay, and then another chunk of game. This is just like, here's your important stuff in the beginning of the book. The rest is all our lore. Don't go back there if you need to find gameplay information.
Yeah, good point. Good point. So here we go. And again, we've spoken about this on previous streams, that we will at some point come back to games to actually create our characters. So we'll be sort of skimming through this, as we will much of the book. But basically, there are 9 steps. So general concept, starting attributes, selecting your race, selecting your archetype, selecting a descriptor, your talents, starting renown and equipment, choosing a flaw, and then your name and finalized concepts and attributes. So, general concept is to decide what sort of character to create. So, a wandering princess, a reformed assassin, an airship raider, adventuring scientist, a pantheon warrior, a lost explorer.
I'm definitely going to be the assassin.
Of course you are. Were we in any doubt? So,
But I'm reformed.
So you can either select a concept from the list or create your own. But it's just a general sort of overview, isn't it? To help sort of shape. So, I mean, I want to be. Well, I think I would want. I want to be Earth from Earth. So, but it does say that you can actually play as John Carter, which is interesting because typically in most games you don't get to play as the hero characters in the game world. So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
Very different. Roger, you're saying you want to be an airship raider. Okay. A privateer or pirate, you fly the Martian skies in search of profit or adventure. So there we go. Lost explorer, you come from far away, perhaps even from another world. So I guess I would be a lost explorer.
Yeah.
I think that would be me. So, okay, we then go over to our starting attributes. And these are used to determine a character's general aptitudes and abilities, forming the core of most mechanical test and die rolls. So, unlike some games, attributes in John Carter are deliberately abstract and result-focused. They focus more on how a character accomplishes something and less on the exact physical or mental abilities used to accomplish the task. So that's interesting. So there are 6 attributes: cunning, daring, empathy, might, passion, and reason. And it goes into some of the details there. And a value of 4 is average, and that's the starting default for all player character abilities. So once you get up to 12, you are legendary. And then it talks about selecting your race. We have green Martians, red Martians, Earthborn. Oh my gosh. Jasumian. Jasumian?
Yep. Jasumian. Yep.
Jasumian. Firstborn, which are the black Martians. And Okar, the yellow Martians, with red being the most common, followed by green. Alright, so that's interesting. But it does say here, Earthborn are the rarest, canonically only including a handful of individuals. So for the most part, you are playing, or you would think that you'd be playing a Martian character, which then is very, very different, isn't it?
Yeah.
Very different. But I suppose from what I've seen, the red Martians are as close to humans, I guess, of the different sort of races on Barsoom. We then come over to, well, the afterlife and the truth of Issus. So we have elements of belief here. Martian telepathy. There are just lots of little boxes of additional info.
There is so much packed into this book.
It's quite a lot, isn't it?
I'm not sure that I would recommend this TTRPG to someone who was a first timer, just because there is so much.
Yes, I think we've seen a few games where we've recognized, oh, this would be great as a starting game because it's just at the right sort of level. You got a bit of rules. It sets the scene for you, away you go. The danger with some games is that there is so much information, it's just overwhelming. Granted, of course, they do a starter set for this game, which, much like the Free League publishing games, it is an abridged version of it where they cut back a lot of the material, include an adventure in, and kind of guide the reader through the process of setting up a character and then playing their first game. So I think maybe hand in hand, as we've sort of experienced, is that's actually a good thing to have. Get the starter set, have the core book. Granted, of course, you've got to know that you really do want to play this game, but that seems to be the best path to go about it. So,
and I think you should have a little bit of experience.
Yeah.
Even with a starter set, you should have at least a little bit of experience, even if it's like your only experience is D&D. That might even be in your in your favor to go from D&D to this. Just because of the way it's set up and everything.
Yeah, that's a good point. Okay, well, here we go. So we have a red Martian. What you know? You speak and read common Barsoomian. You know of your nation and its neighbours. You know of the threats and policies. So it's interesting, all these little things that your character already has. What you don't know: the customs of people in hidden places and remote locales. What you can do: basic self-defense, operate basic machinery. You can fly most vehicles under normal conditions. What do you have then on the next page? A green Martian. And they have 4 arms.
They do, yeah.
Yeah, it's like you can't miss that one. But they are trained in the ways of battle, including the use of rifles, blades, and spears. They can hunt and forage. They can more easily intimidate other races because they're pretty tall, aren't they? Yeah, 10 to 15 feet in height. They're big. We then have the Okar. These are the yellow Martians. I don't know, actually, now, because I don't think the Okar were featured in the movie. So this is something, live in the far north in domed cities, protected from the frozen climate.
Well, in armor like that, they've got to be.
Well, that seems to be a bit of a common theme, doesn't it, with the John Carter, and it is a product of its time. Let's call it as that, because of course you've got to think of, and would I be right in saying, and I'm just going to flip to the front here again for a second, John Carter is comparable to obviously there was Tarzan, but we also had was Conan the Barbarian, as far as books being written of that time. So there's a definite sort of barbarian-esque theme of at that time when these books were done, and that being the case, most people are wandering around in They need to have warm climates, don't they, where they are? Let's say that.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, some of them it fits. But like for this specific one, the fact that they're more, although we don't know. I mean, well, it does say it's in the frozen climate, so at least give them some furs.
Well, here it goes. However, in the Arctic areas outside their cities, they don practical, protective, thick furs, cloaks, and other garb. Only a foolish ochre would venture outside. So maybe this is just their garb for indoors. You know, maybe it's very, very warm in their domed city.
Maybe.
Maybe. We'll move on a little bit. We have Earthborn. And I'm going to ask a question at some point, and I think maybe this character kind of makes me think, because again, I'm wondering if a young George Lucas might have been a fan of Edgar Rice Burroughs.
I got the same feeling.
Yes.
When I was looking through it, yes, yeah, I know where you're going with it. And
you know where I'm going? Okay. Yeah, it's not too dissimilar, is it?
No, yeah. It's really not. Even Roger agrees with us. Yeah.
There we go. We're all on the same wavelength here. Yes. Okay. We then have. We have an element here on mixed heritage, which I think it's alluding to obviously John Carter and Dejah Thoris having a child.
Yeah.
And then we go to the firstborn, and again, you know, I'm looking here. I'm sure the font size has just gone down a point to basically cram all this information in this box. It looks smaller than the text on the other page.
Yeah. I have mine zoomed in so I can like read it. I'm like, oh.
Yeah. Okay, so those are the main races to choose from. Well, we then go to select your archetype. So here we go. This is where you guys in the chat, if you have an idea of what type of character you might want to be, you've chosen your race. So Mystical, which one were you going to be?
Assassin.
Well, yes.
For race?
Yeah, what race?
For race, I think I want to be a green Martian.
A green Martian? Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
I did.
I want to be tall and imposing.
Okay. Roger's saying Earthborn. You're going for the airship raider, which well, that was your sort of what was it? Your concept, but you've got the airship officer here. So I don't know if you're going to be an officer. But we'll see. We've got more archetypes. I think I originally wanted to be Earthborn, but I think I'm going to go for Red Martian. So what have we got? Airship Officer, an Assassin, Beastmaster.
Beastmaster.
Over on the next page, Beastmaster, and a Duelist. I like the idea of being good with a sword. But it goes on. There are more. We have an Envoy, an Explorer, a Fugitive. And again, each of these adds elements to your attributes. Remember that all your attributes started at 4. Now you've got pluses in different areas. And again, it's suggesting some talents, and it's also then telling you what you know and what you can do. I find this an interesting build-up, you know, of trying to sort of place you in the world. We then also have...
The only thing I dislike about this setup is I feel like they could have, instead of making it such small print, and cramming, like 3 of them onto a page. Give them their due and give them like a half a page each, so it's spread out a bit more, so it's easier to read.
Right.
Because it's just a little hard, especially because this whole book is set up differently from other TTRPGs and stuff. And if you're not used to it, it's a little rough to go, because I keep wanting to read, and especially if you have a digital version and you scroll a little bit, you can forget that you're going over to something else and not just a next column of reading.
Right. Yeah, okay, because you're zoomed in on whatever area you're looking at. Yeah. Okay, I see that. Yeah. Yeah. What else do we have? Gladiator, Guide, Healer.
I think a healer could be fun too, especially if you did it very much based off of like their fauna.
Oh, okay. A panthan. What's a panthan? A mercenary selling a sword across Barsoom. A rogue. Ah, you see, I always go for the rogues. Scientist, a soldier, and a spy. So it's a pretty good selection there. We're looking at, there's 5 there. That's 9. It's 13 different archetypes. So, Rogue, you're going with the airship officer. That is what you want to go for. I am liking the idea of a red Martian rogue.
See, I'm flipping between it, which is, it's funny. These are just polar opposites. I'm switching between an assassin or a healer. Can I merge them together and just play an assassin healer? So like, I take the guise of a healer. I come in and, oh, this was the one I'm supposed to assassinate. Okay, well, we're gonna give them this herb instead.
You need to be more like a monk in that case. Then it's
yeah,
somebody who can heal. And be spiritual and supportive, but also then can deal out the damage. But these are all, again, interesting, and that's, again, what's great about role-playing games is that it's unique to the sort of the system. Even though we've got some crossover here, but we've got different ones that are just very interesting. And it does then tell you about creating unique archetypes.
Mm-hmm.
So each archetype provides 4 total ranks of attribute bonuses and a grade 1 talent. So you could create your own. And again, if you have knowledge of the world of John Carter, maybe there's something else that you could find. Maybe you could take an archetype that you've used in your D&D game that you particularly like and tailor it to this world. So it's great that it's
Absolutely.
flexible. Okay, so step 5.
This was one I found really interesting, was the why not skills part.
Okay.
Because if you notice, when you're putting together the character and when it lists the steps, there's no skills. There's no sneak. There's no perception. There's nothing like that, because they just assume that whatever character you pick, whatever skills make sense for that to have, you have the ability to do.
Right.
Which is a different concept, because then you have to really think about, okay, what skills would my character need for that?
Mm-hmm.
Because in most RPGs and that, for doing the airship, you would need to have some sort of drive skill. And they don't have that here. So it's like, it's not that everybody can do everything. You do have to think about what skills would apply. So that's just something else that your character or you as a player might have to note down on your paper, and like during a session 0, like, hey, these are your extra skills that you can do, but just because it doesn't list it, maybe you can't pick a lock. because it
Yeah.
doesn't make sense for your character to do, right? So
Yeah, but I suppose, well, this is it. I mean, it did say for even within part of the races, was it the races that basically gave you an idea of what you could do because you're just an inhabitant of this planet. So, you know, everybody apparently can drive these airships. I guess the difference would be the airship officer, you've got considerably more skill in it. So just general, you know, for example, most people can drive a car, but we're not Formula One racing car drivers. So
exactly.
that's the difference, isn't it? You are, as an airship officer, you are a specialist in that particular skill, although most other people have got it. Picking a lock, well, that's kind of unique, isn't it? But that's where then your archetype of the spy, you can absolutely justify it that the spy would know how to do that, whereas most other people wouldn't.
And I would say a rogue could do it. I would
Yep.
say it makes sense for an assassin to be able to do
Yep.
that.
Yep.
But because realistically, anybody can learn to pick a lock. It's not hard to do.
I'm
We're
sure
gonna
you're
move
not supposed
past
to
that
say
real
that, not
quick.
live on stream.
But it doesn't, just because, you know, you may have, like, it may be something that you could learn, doesn't necessarily mean that your character has any business learning it. Does that make sense? Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, it's an interesting twist on the system, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and again, and so this is something that is maybe to point out to people watching is, of course, with so many of these role-playing game systems, it depends on which company you are actually, the game is from, because there are different core rule sets. So this one, because it's been done by MODIPHIUS Entertainment, this is their 2D20 system. And once you have learnt one of their games, in effect, you will know all of their games with just slight changes for that particular game world. Just in the same way that we were looking at the games from Free League Publishing and we saw the repetition of a similar kind of mechanics, didn't we, across a variety of their games.
Yep.
So here we go. Step 5, select a descriptor. Characters in John Carter are larger than life, dramatic, and tend to be boldly presented. So we need to include a descriptor from the list that best describes our character. Roger, how are you going to describe your airship officer? Are they going to be bold, courageous, fierce, brash, canny, charming, driven, dashing, brilliant, stalwart, romantic, thoughtful, savage, disciplined, or devoted? What is your assassin healer going to be, Mr.
See, this is the thing, because you have to think about, I mean, I know up top it tells you what each, like, cunning and empathy, what they all do.
Yep.
What type of skills fall under it, and no, I can't remember it off the top of my head. But to me, it would make sense that my character would be charming, because I need to be able to get in close. And if I'm not, or if I was male, then maybe I'm dashing.
Yes.
But some sort of appeal there would get me in close. So it feels like that, something like that would be what my character would be described as.
Yeah, and this has got to be the first game where I've actually seen romantic as a sort of trait that you can add to your character. So yes, adding 1 to empathy and passion. But again, so charming, you can add differences to cunning. You can add to your cunning, which would work well with the rogue, wouldn't it? I think a rogue would be charming. Roger is going for courageous. Or would they be
more disciplined?
Ooh,
or canny?
Canny,
right?
Yeah.
Because it all depends on what the definitions mean. So what type of skills fall under daring? What falls under reason, what falls under cunning. So,
well, let's just have a quick. Just going to go back quickly. Because yes, it does. So daring comes into play whenever a character is at risk and movement is important. Daring covers movement, piloting, and defense actions of all sorts. Daring is often used with cunning to strike with a sword, or with empathy to avoid a blow. So it does break these down. So cunning,
yeah.
used whenever a character wants to weaken another. Cunning is used for all attacks, insults, and thefts. Cunning is used with might to scuttle a ship or bash down a door, and used with reason to shoot a rifle. So, yes, I think you definitely need to read that little bit about your starting attributes, get a good grasp on those, and once you're comfortable with those, that would inform your other decisions, wouldn't it?
Yeah, and I think charming might be the way to go for the assassin.
Yeah. Adding to cunning and empathy, yeah. Okay. Yeah. So then step 6, we have our talents. Talents represent those unique or developed abilities that make characters special. There is a whole section about talents, so we don't do it just here. We will do that in a moment. We then move on to starting renown and equipment. And again, we jump over to, there's another chapter, growing your legend. So we go a little bit more detail in your renown, but core equipment, basically, it's saying here most characters carry various pieces of equipment. Core equipment represents any item that a character always has available and can easily be replaced if stolen or lost. For example, a swordman may never go anywhere without their sword, and should he somehow lose it, he always seems to secure a replacement. Yeah. So as an assassin, what knives? You don't maybe have some knives?
I think for either knives or some sort of poison in that, because for an assassin, it doesn't, just because you are going to assassinate someone doesn't mean you're going to do it bloody.
True.
In fact, you're probably most likely not going to do it bloody. You're probably going to use some sort of poison. So if their poisons come in herbs or powders, I'd think it was something like that. You'd have a pouch of components that have different herbs and powders in it, and that's something you're never without. Because other stuff, you can get, here's a twig, right? And you can use it, and you can sharpen it, and you've now got a dart you can use. You need to put it in a glass you've got powder, you can put it in a glass. Maybe it's contact powder, you put it on like a handle or something. So I think powders or herbs would be what an assassin would need. Sure. I don't think you necessarily need blades.
No, that's a fair point. But again, I think the important aspect here is that you are talented enough that you can procure these items, and for your character, just because you don't necessarily know, but your character knows exactly how to get hold of them. Yeah, that's the important point, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think that's something this game system does well. Is in other ones you can lose your equipment and it can be a bit of a chore to get it back, or at least to get something as good as you had back. But in this, it's like nah. If it's lost, you get it back. Like you are not going to be without it.
Yeah, because you would know as a character how you procure it. So yeah. Then we go over to choose a flaw. So each player character hero, no matter how strong, beautiful, brilliant, reliable or charming, has a flaw. This informs not just how a player character hero acts, but also the challenges they regularly face. So, as it says, mechanically flaws are essentially anti-talents. So here we go. Let's find out what flaw your assassin has. Heroic fury,
soft-hearted,
overprotective, self-sacrificing, soft-hearted, target of opportunity.
I gotta go with soft-hearted.
Did you? Okay.
I have to. It makes so much open for role play, because you have this assassin who you think is going to be one way, but there's something, like maybe it's not towards uh all characters, like maybe it's more hard, like more tugging towards children or towards elderly or toward females or males, just based off of something. But I think it could be so much fun to have that as a flaw.
Right.
I definitely I have things like my mind has been going nuts with these character creations.
So if you leave another character to suffer or cause undue suffering, you lose free momentum. This flaw is viewed as particularly egregious among the Green Martians and similarly hard-hearted cultures.
And it could be so fun, because that would, because then you also have to look at it, okay, well, how do I justify my assassination? And how do I justify, like, maybe that's why it's less bloody and it's more, assassination is done more with, the powders and herbs, or just a different way, because I can justify that because it's a quick death versus them suffering.
Right. See? Oh yeah, you definitely have been thinking about this, haven't you? Wow.
I have, yes.
Okay, so we get to then step 9, the name and finalize concept and attributes. And so it breaks down different names by the different races. So Red Martian names tend towards a first and last name consisting of 1 or 2 syllables. Alliteration is common, such as Cantos can, but names also often share common traits with a parent or ancestor. So we got some sample names here. Mors Kajak, Kulan Tif, Saran Tal. Hey, actually a second. I wasn't able to say those without a problem. Maybe there's some Red Martian blood within me here. What's going on? Let's go to Earthborn and ruin it all. So, Earthborn characters, of course. John Carter, also known as Dotar Sojat, amongst the Green Martian Tharks. There you go. See, getting it wrong now. It wasn't going to last long. Green Martians, Tars Tarkas, Solar, and Farban. I think this will be interesting in creating names. Okay, and then it does go through a summary of the character creation generation walkthrough. So it's giving you a guide as far as how to create. I think that this is a dashing example of the character that they are creating. A courageous Earthborn explorer. And so here you go, sample player characters. Or is this actually... Oh no, this is giving you examples of who you could be. So, again, looking through this might be a good idea to initially get an idea of how you would create your character from their examples. So what do we have? Earthborn explorer. A bold Earthborn soldier. Canny Red Martian envoy. Stalwart Red Martian duelist. A charming Okar spy.
See, there's the use of charming with that type of thing. I think I was right on point with that.
Yeah. A driven firstborn airship officer. So this, not quite your character, Roger, but certainly the profession. A thoughtful green Martian guide. So there's a few there to take a look at. Maybe get some inspiration. Okay. So then we go to Chapter 3, Talents. Talents are an important part of John Carter of Mars. Represent exceptional abilities that allow characters to perform great feats at a high level of competence. So this is what we skipped during the creation, because of course it's going to go into so much more detail.
Yeah, and these feel like the what would be feats in other games, where it is a lot to you got to read through it and.
Yeah. Oh, going the wrong way. There we go. So, yes, we have our talents in various grades. Let's just go through here. Acrobatic dodge, cut them down. I like the descriptive nature of these. A passionate rider, expert rifleman, eye for danger, keen marksman, skilled infiltrator. So you could have that maybe as your assassin. Grade 2, talents, expert aim, just a scratch. And then going over to the page, witty repartee. I've got to have that one. Skilled physician, deadly pistolier, suppressing fire. On to grade 3, fixed, disarming parry. I'm not even sure what the next one is. You're used to grabbing
from
onto
every
the
chandelier.
Chandelier, I thought it said, yeah. For every chandelier, you get used to grabbing onto the smallest of rails or ledges. When traversing perilous landscapes, you seldom come to harm. So it's parkour ability. Grade 4, flurry of blows.
That could be useful to an assassin.
Yes.
Because window ledges and all that.
Oh, too far. Multiple effect talents. And again, it's giving examples of how these might be used. And then goes on into the actual listing. So we've got various grades of empathetic rider, perceptive scientist. There's just so much, isn't there?
There is, and this is another section that I wish was kind of done a little differently, or that they had increased the font needs to be bigger with these, because it is an important thing, and you really got to be able to make sure you're reading it right and you don't blend it with something else, and you don't kind of just go over reading from, like, if you're only supposed to take grade 1 talents, you don't go over, reading left to right, and all of a sudden you pick a talent that's in grade 2 just because of the way it's set up. Or
okay, so we get to the end of the talents and we start section 2. Adventuring in Barsoom, weapons, technology and equipment, and growing your legend. So some of these, of course, go back to the character creation, don't they?
Mm-hmm.
And so starts off talking about dice and dice rolls. So this is going to be, of course, about doing tests. We have our various attributes, and these are obviously what you're having to roll to be successful in any given test.
I really like this little box, this diagram, where it shows you, hey, if your dice look like this in these pairings, this is what it means. That right here, just black and white, this is what it means.
Let's just go back. You mean, yes? Yes, no, that is helpful, isn't it?
It is. It's really helpful, because there are a lot of times when you roll and you're like, wait, what does this one mean again? If this is this right? Does this work? So having that that is something as me as a player, I would write down into my notes. I would copy it into my notes to have that to reference.
Right, so this is in reference to the combat die, isn't it? Because I think all the other dies is the obviously the D20s.
Yeah.
So it goes into detail then on attribute tests. And the complications. And then basically, I think I am right. Let me just find this. I want to find this. Where is it? There we go. So there's a target number of a test is equal to the total of the two attributes that govern the activity. When asked to perform an attribute test, the player usually rolls 2d20. Each die roll equal to or less than the test's target number scores a single success. The greater the number of successes scored across the entire dice pool, the better the test result.
That's pretty like straightforward and easy to follow too, which is really nice. It's not complicated or anything like that.
Yeah, so basically a test is going to be, I'm just looking at the example here, so it is the characters say, for example, the daring and their might. Daring of 7, might of 4 gives you a target number of 11. They roll 2d20 results in a 2 and a 9, so there's 2 successes. And that is the 2d20 system, basically. Nice and easy. The 2 is also under the character's might, so they gain an additional success on this test for a total of 3 successes. So if you actually roll under your attribute score, it gives you an additional success. So out of the 2 dice, potentially you could get 4 successes. To which then it just comes to this chart here, and we get an idea of, this is obviously for the narrator, the games master, basically setting how difficult the actual task is, how many successes are required. So, challenging, overcoming a complex lock. I like how lock picking seems to be the universal grade of difficulty. So, 0 successes, opening a slightly stuck door.
That's great.
It's quite helpful. Okay. It then goes on to opposed tests. And again, a variety of modifiers. Because I actually have played a game of one of MODIPHIUS's other systems, their Star Trek adventure game, and so some of this actually is familiar to me, having played that game. So it does move on, talking about momentum. Let's come out here. So when the number of successes scored on attribute test is greater than difficulty rating, the excess becomes momentum. Momentum can be spent immediately to perform the given task more effectively, or it can be saved and applied to actions taken later. So having momentum is always a good thing. And I think you get to pool it, don't you, as part of the group.
Mm-hmm.
So it just gives you those bonuses that you might need as you play. But again, lots more information. telling you about how the narrator uses momentum. Ooh, too much. And in fact, have I gone too far? There we go. So then we have fret, used in a similar way to momentum, both by narrator characters and player characters. When a character uses momentum on a test, they can spend fret instead. So this is giving the narrator sort of bonuses, isn't it, for them to be able to use.
Which is nice, because then it's not just favored for the players. There's also some for the narrator in that. So
okay, we then move on to action scenes. Armed combat and violent encounters are the most dangerous and engaging part of adventuring in Barsoom. So, it tells us about turn sequence and order, seizing initiative. We've got surprise and ambushes and movement ranges and abstract zones.
that's always fun.
I did find it was, and again, another little call out on the other side here, talking about miniatures, and MODIPHIUS do actually produce a range of John Carter miniatures, which I thought was quite cool. I think that they would be an interesting project to work on, because again, it's just very different, isn't it?
And it is nice, though, that it does say, hey, you know what, if you aren't sure that this is a game for you, and maybe you have the book or you borrowed the book from somebody else, you don't need to have miniatures to play this. You can play it theater of the mind.
Mm-hmm.
So, because there are other ones that you kind of need a visual representation for it, but for this you don't, and it's great for if you're like, I'm not sure if this is going to work for me or not.
Sure.
Because then you're not investing a whole bunch right away.
Yeah, no, most definitely. And obviously the flip side to it for miniature painters who are watching but want to paint something completely different, who are not necessarily keen on doing role-play games, then there's a great set of minis at MODIPHIUS. Go and check them out, because you're very, very different indeed.
Yeah. Not me just like scrolling here through them like, oh yes, they're really cool, guys. If you haven't looked at them yet, go look at them. Yes. They are so cool.
Yeah, MODIPHIUS do it well. Obviously, they have, and spoilers here. They do have the Fallout role-playing game. We might be looking at that at some point. They do miniatures for the Star Trek role-playing game. So if you're into Star Trek, then there's a great selection of minis there. So yeah, they do have an awesome range. Okay. I know that we are not going to be able to go through this entire book. We are up to sort of movement and terrain here, and it's only page 60.
Yeah.
So there is just so much. So I think what we might do is might just go at a little bit more speed here, and actually sort of see. Was there an area that jumped out at you?
Just now, swimming. We weren't sure if they had water, but there's a section on swimming.
I've gone right past it. Swimming.
Yeah. Swimming is movement through a body of water. Yeah.
But it does. Well, I think what we need to do is we need to find an area where it talks about actually what the landscape is like, because again, all of this
different zones, territories, and that.
Yeah. This is obviously all about the more on the role-playing side of things. We get up to chapter 5, looking at weapons, technology, and equipment. Which, we have a typical selection, but just obviously unique to the world. We have our melee weapons and our ranged firearms. But again, there is just a lot of text. I mean, this next page, here we go. I mean, look at that.
Yeah.
Right? And this is great. It is good, right? If you are into John Carter, there is so much information there. This is, taking all of the lore from all the books and condensing it down into just this section. If you wanted to write an essay on firearms in the John Carter world, this is great resource. You've got to be prepared for blocks of text if you're new to this.
Definitely something where you would want to have a copy of the PDF so you could print stuff off and like highlight, go and annotate it.
Yeah.
Annotate those pages.
Yeah. Incendiary devices. We then go on to equipment. Oh, here we go.
Look, it's me.
The most important item of equipment for any Martian is the harness worn in place of clothing. Barsoomians dislike covering their bodies unless the temperature or climate requires them to don robes of silk and fur to protect against the cold. There we go. See?
I feel very connected to this. Forget pants and shirts. Let's just put a harness on.
That's it.
Walk around. Yeah.
In fact, actually, now I'm thinking of John Carter. I'm getting that sort of He-Man vibe a little bit.
Yeah.
It's the same sort of idea, isn't it? Of course, years and years later. Medicines, torches and illumination, field glasses, chronometers, invisibility. Interesting. A hero will begin with equipment appropriate to their nation, social standing, and profession. This is a permissive and a fluid list in many cases.
Mm-hmm.
With characters being presumed to be sensible Barsoomians who have the things they need to prosper and survive unless circumstances dictate otherwise. So pretty much, you can just you can justify it to the narrator and say, "This is what my particular character would have." Away you go,
then go
which is
for
great. Again, we're looking at technology, and if you are curious about the world of Barsoom, it covers absolutely everything. But we look 2 pages there back to back. It's an interesting read. Airship flyers. I like the visuals on this. This look really cool.
I really like the next section that we come up to, because I thought it was a really cool thing that you don't see a lot.
So, is this growing your legend?
A little bit further. No, I think you went just before that. The biological sciences.
Oh right, okay.
Because how many TTRPGs have you played where that is something to take into account? It's just really cool. It's a cool concept, like to think about that and to dive into that and be like, yeah, hey, the Martians, this is something they're really good at. It's like, whoa, so cool.
Well, I mean, here you go. I mean, it talks about Barsoom's 5 vast oceans with a major means of trade across the planet. Of course, the clue is in the title. It's the Dying World of Barsoom. So I think the answer to our question as to whether there is any oceans on this world, no, I actually don't think there is. I think that's kind of the point, isn't it?
Yeah.
It has become a desert, and that water probably is a scarce resource. So we go on to the growing your legend. Again, it's just so much. You get accolades and your allies. We get different titles. And again,
so much stuff.
This breaks down into there are Green Martian titles and honorary informer titles and promotions and title changes. Using renown to change Barsoom. Alright, and then, here we go. We go to section 3. So, this is really where it's going to get to build the world. We have the history of Barsoom. We have the Green Hordes, the Red Kingdoms, the Okar and beyond, and then beyond Barsoom. So, if you wanted to learn all about the John Carter world, this is where it's at. Again, so much information. We got modern Barsoom.
Ocean.
Pardon? What was that?
I said, look, ocean.
Ocean. Where am I looking for ocean? Oh, yes, of course, yes.
Yes, the picture.
Yes.
But that is ancient Barsoom, so.
It is ancient, yes.
But I just thought that was funny.
So it then goes on about life on Barsoom. And it talks about religion. I got to admit, I have never, at this time, encountered a RPG that goes into so much depth. It really does have everything. Society, warrior customs. Oh, okay. Again, it is depicting well. Okay. We'll move over. On the other page, there is a call out. So we did say that there would be a mention somewhere, doesn't it?
Yep.
So tries to portray the world of Edgar Rice Burroughs' novels as accurately as possible. However, it's hard to deny that Burroughs wrote in a time that was more accepting of certain inequalities that modern audiences may find more jarring.
Absolutely.
Okay. So, as we've discussed, you tailor a game so it's suitable for you and your audience, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it's important that they do make a point of pointing it out there. Entertainment and crime, technology, architecture, resources. It just keeps going.
It doesn't stop. There's so much.
There is just so much. We then go. That was just that was Barsoom. We now go on about the Green Hordes.
Yeah. Oh. And this stuff, if you have any interest in the races and that of this is pay particular attention to this section because it is so detailed and so cool.
There is just so much.
I have gone deep into this.
Yeah. Again, I've never seen a game that has explained everything in so much detail. But
yeah.
And to think, obviously even the Tolkien games, they have all of this resource, but I don't think even they go to this level. So it is a real achievement by the publisher, by the writing team.
Yeah, even D&D, there's so much content for D&D and so many different, places, whether it's, you know, this book or this book, or you, let's go from, it's still D&D, like Dark Sun versus some of the newer things. There's so much stuff there, but it doesn't go into the detail that this does. It doesn't, it comes close, but it's almost just like it just kind of puts a dent in it. This just, they ran with this. They're like, here is everything.
Yeah. So it really is, for anybody who is a fan of John Carter, this actually is a must, isn't it? Because
yeah, it really is.
You will already have an appreciation for some of the material, and then you have all the material provided around the edges, things that you probably were not aware of.
I honestly think, even if you're not interested in playing the game, that you should have this book in your collection just for the lore.
Yes.
Like, just purely for that, get the book. It's so good.
Yeah. It's... you know, we're just talking here. I'm just flicking through, and you can just see just how much detail. It's all there. Wow. Okay, so we get to chapter 11, Beyond Barsoom. So of course, then we start looking at the other. We have look at Earth. We have Luna. We have Venus. And I think am I right in thinking that didn't Edgar Rice Burroughs start doing another book series with another hero? Was it over on Venus?
I think so. I want to say yes.
Because there's a little piece here saying the explorer Carson Napier claimed the world was known as Amtor by the natives. Though the veracity of this and his other claims is unknown. So I'm wondering if that's a wink to another series of books. And then we have Mercury and Jupiter and the moons of Barsoom. So that would seem to be everything really for, I guess, the player and the narrator. We're going to section 4, and we're looking a little bit more towards what the narrator or the games master, the sections that they require. And so
the book series that it's winking at is Amtor, or the Venus series. Though it looks like Pirates Venus is the first book.
Right. Okay. Wow. Okay, so narrator of Mars, talking about episodes and serials and campaigns. And for some reason, when I was reading through this, I was thinking of the old, I'm going to get the year wrong, but I'm talking about the old black and white serials of Flash Gordon. And was it the Rocket Man? You know, that's those very, very old sort of 20-minute shows. I think they were done obviously at the cinema, but I remember watching them on TV, early morning TV. And I have that sort of image in my mind with a lot of this.
I can't speak to that one. That one I'm lost on.
You see, I'm giving away my age there. No, you must have seen it on. You go and try and find old. I want to say 1930s or 1940s. Yeah, it was like black and white TV shows of Flash Gordon, and it was pretty amazing. But it feels it's like the right sort of pulp adventure sort of style, and I think that's what is going through my mind as I've been looking through this and thinking, okay, trying to adapt that same sort of feel into for this game.
So there's 1930s and 1940s. There's 3 film series which were based on the comic strip.
Okay.
See,
Well,
I've never seen it. Nothing.
Obviously, I
You
wasn't
lost me
around
there.
watching it when it first broadcast, okay? Just to be clear on that. I was watching very, very old replays when I was a kid. But they are actually, they're charming to watch because, of course, it is of a very different time. But that whole sense of adventure, and there's always a cliffhanger at the end of every 20 minutes. And you always think the protagonist is, the hero's going to die. But then, of course, you've got to tune in next week. And when you did, of course, the hero miraculously manages to escape the danger. And then the story carries on. It's great stuff. It's really, really great.
I like every time. I don't know why, but now that we the black and white that came to mind, now all I can think of is Carry On movies, which is definitely not this feel.
It's not Carry On movies. No, it's not at all.
No, not even a little bit, but that is now stuck in my head, and now I just can't stop giggling.
And so here you go. In fact, we got up to this campaign tone and theme. What is planetary romance?
No.
Rationalist pulp. Wow. So again, this is interesting just purely from a understanding different sort of genres, I guess. And books that I haven't read that, of course, are being so informative to modern day stories and movies and TV shows, isn't it?
Yeah, I thought this one bit back here on the next slide is or I guess it's the 2 pages when we get there. There's a really interesting one there
Which
that
one?
they touch on, which is evil, not vile.
Okay, let's get to that then.
Which is villains are evil, but they usually do not engage in overly graphic or disturbing arts, which is not the case in a lot of TTRPGs.
Yeah. No, again, that sort of makes me think back to, as I say, the Flash Gordon sort of TV show. Is that the main antagonist is Ming the Merciless. He's evil. But the thing is, he never for 1 second would think of some of the sequences we see in modern TV programs. He's going to get rid of the hero, but you never see it, and it's never gruesome. It's a story from a different age, which is
absolutely
fun. Okay, maybe a little vile.
Okay, maybe a little vile.
Yeah, villains might not always lose, but that is typically their lot. They're there to challenge, but ultimately to be defeated by the heroes. Yeah. Again, so that is a clever way of doing the game.
But they're not stupid. Yep.
Yeah. Well, I suppose this is where our the idea of our mustache twirling villains. We're going to give you 5 minutes of dialogue of how I'm going to be so terrible to you, but you're going to get out of those manacles, aren't you, by the next episode?
Yeah.
So we looked at the different eras that we could possibly set our game into. And then conventions of the genre. Yes, here we go. This is out of the frying pan.
Yep.
Curse your inevitable betrayal.
I can't.
I mean, it's great to see that actually the writers here are having fun with it, just as we've just been discussing it. Yeah.
Yeah, and you can see using those taglines in this RPG you can see connections into other things that have probably been a fan of this to begin with. at like so sir that line, the curse your inevitable betrayal, I can't I can't hear that line without seeing Wash from Firefly
Yes, exactly.
playing with the
Exactly.
dinosaurs. I can't. It's curse your sudden inevitable betrayal.
No, it's exactly that, and it is,
Yeah.
you know, right from the offset. This is pulp fiction, isn't it? You know, of that genre, it is the precursor to your Indiana Jones.
Yes.
And again, because that's what inspired George Lucas to create that character. I mean, even Star Wars has got that element in the original Star Wars. It was just, you know, pulp heroes but set in space. So this is the daddy of all of those things.
It really is. It absolutely is. And it's if you are someone who didn't grow up around this, but you have seen other things that you're like, oh, this is so cool. And then you see this, you're like, oh, and you can just see where things have been coming from. And it's so cool to see the reach that it has. Oh,
Yes.
so good.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Expanding the world. I mean, again, it's just so much.
There really is. I know when I first looked at it, I was like, oh my gosh, there's so much. Where do you start?
In fact, here we go. So it starts to talk about sources of inspiration. Naturally, of course, Burroughs' work is a good place to start. But we've just been... I mean, here we go. There's a reference here to Frank Herbert's Dune. On the next page, talks about myths and legends. Literature. And then cinema, and oh, who would have known? Star Wars inspires a campaign centered around the adventures of a farm boy who is actually the heir to a Jeddak, of a lost city, a smuggler with a heart of gold, and a warrior princess. So there you go. You couldn't get any more Edgar Rice Burroughs inspired. When you break it all down, yeah? I actually want to go and watch the movie again now.
I know, me too.
Yeah, I think the movie might be going on this weekend. Beasts of Barsoom, so we get an idea of some of the creatures. Remember, they're not evil. They're just hungry.
Yeah.
By this depiction. And so yes, it was basically going through. Oh gosh, that is a proper beast. What's that? What's this one called? It's apt, a savage carnivore of the northern pole. Maybe their ice caps are not as cold as ours, because you know she's got a bit of fur on, but I'm not quite sure that's enough.
Or did it get in their dome city?
Oh, possibly.
And that's just the outer regions. Yeah.
But I'm just seeing that, you know, there's icy peaks behind her. So
look, I said outer, like closer to the border. Like, give it something here, because that's not. You can see her breath. That's not enough furs. Because that one that's got the chain over, she doesn't even have any furs, so it's got to be inside the dome city.
It's got to be, hasn't it? It's got to.
Remember, because they said they don't go out.
This is true.
In nothing, so it's got to be that it got in, or maybe someone was running from it and it led them in because she needed safety, because they're not dressed to be out there.
No, she's not. Don't you walk outside like that, young lady. You come in right now and put some clothes on.
But Mom,
all the other girls wear this. Anyway, Moving on.
That's great.
An Arbok monster. But it's from the deadly arboreal reptile of Barsoom's forests. See, so we do have different kinds of environments. Banff, the pitless stalker of Barsoom's Dead Sea bottoms. Looks like a multi-legged lion, doesn't it? And again, lots of detail. Oh, wow. Okay, here we go. I mean, I'm just going by the artist's depiction here, but that makes me think of a monster from a Star Wars movie. Yeah, so the Calot, a fearless and loyal Martian watchdog. Ah, okay.
That's what Woola is.
So this features in the movie, doesn't it?
Woola, yeah.
Yeah.
I love this. I've been waiting for this one. I love Woola so much.
Right. Roger's saying that he's thinking about watching the movie this weekend too. I think we have to, don't we? I think we have to.
I'm thinking of watching it right after stream.
Yeah. No, it's unfortunately, I don't think the movie did particularly well, which is such a shame because it has so much potential.
Neither did Hocus Pocus, and it is huge now. So yes. I mean,
maybe, hopefully, fingers crossed.
Yeah. Oh, I love Woola.
Okay.
I want Woola. I want it.
So we have a Malagor, primeval giants of the air restored by otherworldly science. Wow, okay. We have a picture there. With another Princess Leia cosplayer. An Orluk, fleet-footed killer of the northern wastes. And then Plant Man, Barsoom's frightful cyclopean horror. Gosh, again, there's just so many creatures.
These things look like poxwalkers from 40K.
Right, okay.
Don't they? I mean, like, look at the teeth in his stomach and the tongue coming out.
Oh, yeah.
Look at that. Yeah. Took you a minute, but you looked, you're like, wait. Yeah.
Yeah, now I can see it. Ooh, okay. It was dark, I couldn't see. now I'm disturbed. Oh, here we go.
I think there's like, on its hand, there's even like on the palm of its hand, it looks like there's like a mouth on its hand as well.
So here we go. We have a monster that's called Sif. Mr. Lucas. Yes. There's just so many. Oh, spider, a Martian spider. We don't like that. No, move him right past.
No.
There's no pictures.
Good, because I would.
Ew. We then have synthetic men, hormads.
Yeah.
But then there's a picture. I was going to say there's a photo afterwards.
Yeah.
Because gosh, they're awful.
Oh.
So bulky zombie sort of amalgamations of some sort of science. Yeah, disturbing mutations. Artificial creatures produced in the Jeddak of Jeddak era by Ras Favas, the mastermind of Mars, in the dead city of Morbus, in the Lilian marshes. Oh my goodness.
Clones, anybody?
Yeah. more minions, more creatures. Again, it's all great stuff.
It is. It's fantastic.
Here we go, and then we finally get to the white ape that we saw on the cover, to which there's a nice picture.
Nice is not exact. I mean, nice artistic-wise, yes.
Artistic-wise, not what's actually happening.
Yeah.
I think they're
that
fighting.
Poor green Martian.
Yes. I think they're fighting over it. Who's going to have lunch? I
mean, there's 2 more or 3 more off to the side there. Go pick up one of those.
Yeah, but that's a fresh one, and we all want a fresh dinner. Okay, so we finish off the final one, a beast of burden. But then we have further beasts. So if that was not enough for you, you can start creating your own. So again, so much. We then get to the secrets of Barsoom. So this, I think, is talking more about the actual planet, various locations. So the river Is in the Jeddak of Jeddak's era. So there's water. We've got boats. Again, so much detail. And this, of course, if you've read the books...
more like river, though, and lakes than ocean.
Yeah. So much detail.
Well, I mean, we've gone past it, but...
Oh, what, sorry?
They do have a sea. It does say the sea.
CCC.
It's a subterranean ocean.
Ah, there we go. In subterranean ocean, some 5 or 6. See, again, we've got to a point now where the book's actually using the correct terminology for Barsoom. So 5 or 6 hads beneath a large portion of the South Polar region. I need to now know what a had is. We've got to go all the way back to the
way
front.
Back at the beginning. Cue cards. Cue cards are going to be your friend with this game. But write down those important charts.
That's why it is so good.
Yeah.
Okay, let's find it. Where is it? What's a had? A had is 200 ads, but it is 1,949 feet or 594 meters. There we go. We are now all educated. We know what a had is. So that's how far beneath the South Polar region, the large subterranean ocean. Or sea, I should say. Sea. And Lofar, Bantum, and then more detail on strange locales and wonders.
Oh, kangaroo man. I'm sorry.
Where's the kangaroo man?
Playing Ghoulians.
Oh.
Right in the middle there. They're kangaroo men.
Oh my goodness.
This is fantastic.
Okay.
Oh my gosh. And it says they would constantly be running from conflict. And then coming back and insisting nobody won without them. I changed my mind. Can I be that?
Is this in fact your Jar Jar Binks character?
Yes.
It is, isn't
Can I be Jar Jar Binks?
Jar Jar Binks in the John Carter of Mars world. Yeah.
Oh, I love it. I love it so much.
Strange powers and secrets. Empathy. Illusionist. Projection. Mind control. All sounding very familiar. Ooh.
Taxidermy.
Yes, yeah. I've seen that. It's like, hang on a second.
Wait a minute.
Several steps have got to have happened to get to this point.
What were they and where are they?
Yes.
I'm a little lost.
Translocation. Strange and lost technologies. You get a chart to everything there.
This chart.
In the smallest of fonts. Oh, it's so small.
I know.
It's so small. Then we go to chapter 15, Champions of Barsoom. So this is where we can actually see some of the characters. So, Dejah Thoris. Dejah Thoris. So she is the princess. You gotta have a princess. And then... Oh, gone too far? No. There you go, John Carter. Looking very He-Man. And so these will be characters that if you've read the books, then you will be familiar with. So, Kantos Kan, Solar, Mors Kajak. Oh god, I can't do this one.
Come on, you got this.
Salensus all. Salensus all. Yes, I know. Ruined. Okay.
It hadn't been done the entire stream. I had to get one in.
You have to get one in. Tardos Mors, Tars Tarkas. I'm not doing too badly here.
No, you're doing surprisingly well.
Surprisingly well. I think I have a home in in Barsoom. That's where I should be going. But again, we got some nice artwork here for the different characters. From the different eras, these of course reflect the different books. And then we have essentially these are the narrator character archetypes, the NPCs in effect. And the narrator to use during their story. Whole variety of different ones. And then this is interesting because I believe that this was actually funded via a sort of Kickstarter crowdfunding campaign. So these are backer characters. I think these were characters that were created during the course of the campaign, which is it's interesting. So, Bo By, and then we have Matthew Crosskey. So we got a few different ones. I'll quickly go through them. That's a cool idea to actually have the community create characters as part of a campaign. Mind Merchants of Mars. So the following introductory adventure is designed for 3 to 6 players. For John Carter, this adventure works for any era of play or player character races with minimal adaptation. So, actually, you do have a mission to go through. And then it does offer up some additional inspiration for missions. But I'm just going to jump all the way to the end here to what I think is one of the most beautiful character sheets. I love this. I don't know how practical it is for playing, but I love the look of it. I think it's really cool.
It is gorgeous. It's... oh.
Yeah. I really like it.
But again, a lot going on.
There is, isn't there?
Yeah.
I can imagine that you would do a lot of notes in a pad next to you. So.
But something I do like about this that you don't get on a lot of sheets is under your attributes. So cunning, it's going to tell you what it goes to.
Yes, that's what we were not sure about, were we? But hey, there it is. It's giving you that reference, which is good.
Mm-hmm.
So if we were putting our character together, having this at hand would have been very helpful. Which of course we would do because we were filling out our character. Well, there we go. That is basically it. Because we then get to right at the end, we have all the backers, a glossary of game terms. Couple of pages worth, and then, my goodness, an index that, again, it's super small and so much information. But because it covers so much.
Yeah.
So I think this is a book that I am going to, at some point, we'll sit down and have a proper read through for the enjoyment of actually discovering the world first and foremost. I think, because it's new to me. So like I say, I have a little bit of awareness, but I want to know more. This is going to provide all of that information. And then, once I've read all that and enjoyed it just for that, then it's maybe looking at, okay, what type of game, what type of character would I create from it? But as we've discussed tonight, if anybody who's interested in John Carter should have this, it's an amazing resource.
I'm a lore junkie for TTRPGs, not with a lot of stuff, but with TTRPGs, I run with it, and this is so good.
It is, isn't it?
It really, really is.
Yeah. This is definitely, considering it's all in essentially one book, and I believe that there are other books that you can get for the game. So considering how much has been put into this one book, whereas maybe in others it's spread out over multiple books, you really are getting proper value.
No, for sure.
Yeah, but I think you probably need to stagger your exploration because there's just so much information to take in.
To do this all in like an evening. Don't sit down and be like, I'm just going to read through this. It's not going to work.
No.
You need a while.
No, most definitely, yes. Yeah. But hopefully you would find it enjoyable. I think you've got to want to be doing it in the first place, haven't you? And that being the case, you're halfway down the path then. Because it's not something... I think that most people who come to John Carter are going to have some understanding and actively want to experience that world. So that being the case, it's a treasure trove for them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyone who already has an interest in this it's just going to add more. It's just so much more enjoyable to them. But if you're unsure and think that, yeah, this looks interesting, then just dip your toe in a little bit.
Yeah,
Don't try to deep dive.
Yeah, that's where the maybe the starter set is probably
Yeah.
the better option, because you will have an abridged version of this. You'll get the info that you need to know to set up your characters, to be able to run an initial adventure that will be part of that set, and you'll have a good feel for it. And then at that point, invest in the larger book, and you're already sort of playing it at that point, and you're just then filling in around the edges, aren't you? Of which there is so much.
Think of it like the like director's cut or extended edition. Like this can come as your collector's edition if you're unsure. Go for the normal DVD first.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Well, speaking of DVDs, I feel like that John Carter of Mars has got to be watched now. So hopefully, viewers, you've been teased enough that you now want to go and watch it as well. And yeah, we'll look forward to revisiting this in a few weeks' time, of creating our own characters. I think that will be quite good fun.
A lot of fun. A lot.
Great. Well, thank you so much for joining me, Mystical. As always, we appreciate that. I'm glad that you enjoyed exploring this game, and definitely ticked a box for you, didn't it? Since you're a fan of it.
Did.
Yeah,
I really did.
Awesome. Right.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. So we will be coming somewhere closer to home on Thursday evening. We will not be on Mars. We will be in Venice. So that is the game that we're going to be playing on Thursday evening. Looking forward to it. It's going to be a fun game.
Yes.
Yeah. Have you been watching videos?
Yes, I have.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Yeah. No, I think we'll have a lot of fun. It's going to be an interesting game, nice and challenging. So that's what we're doing on Thursday from 7:00. But thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you then.
See you then. Bye-bye.
Bye now. Okay, and so our thanks to Mystical Unicorn Painting for joining us this evening, taking a look at John Carter of Mars, Adventures on the Dying World of Barsoom from MODIPHIUS Entertainment. A lot of fun, such a detailed role-playing game system. Hope you enjoyed taking a look through at that. As we say, on Thursday we will be playing a tabletop board game. We're playing Venice, so if you would like to join us from that, 7:00 GMT +1, that's when we will be going live. Thank you so much for everybody in the chat this evening. Hope you have a good rest of your day, and look forward to seeing you again soon. But until then, bye for now.